program. Next slide. So the pavement management system is a Bay Area effort. It's done through the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, or MTC, through the nine Bay Area counties. And so it assists us with some technical management. It's also known as PTAP, and it provides annual grant funding to get access to this PTAP program. The PTAP program pretty much helps us assess the condition of our pavement and crafts a management strategy going forward. Next slide, please. So the name of the program that they provide is called Street Saver. This is a asset management software. Basically, we renew it every 2 years. So we hire a group of engineers to come out and to go out throughout the whole Bay Area, and they assess the pavements of each city within the city limits and provide a score for each one and a useful life estimate for each street, also some sort of pavement management strategy. The whole point of pavement management, of course, is to preserve streets that are in good condition and to forestall any further deterioration, excessive deterioration of our streets. Some of the streets that we have are in poor condition, and those are the ones that are going to need basically a total rebuild. So we kind of try to factor those in terms of our budget and our budget limitations. Next slide, please. So Street Saver provides a graphic overview of what the condition of our streets are in. As you can see from this one right here, this one was put together soon after the 2021 pavement management assessment, and the city of St. Helena did receive a score of 50. Currently, we are at a score of 49. We did renew that this morning, and so we updated Street Saver to include the streets that we did in the Cornella area. So our score has dropped 1 point, not significant, but still we're pretty much holding steady as we go. Just to give you an idea that bringing a street up to a higher score is going to take probably more investment at some point. But for now, with the investment that we're putting into it, we're maintaining our streets and avoiding further deterioration. Now, when we go through the selection criteria, you can go next slide, please. The program is a very useful tool, but it's just a technical strategy, and there's other considerations that influence pavement management. And of course, we bring it to council. Council may have some ideas on how to distribute this graphically throughout the city so that not one area gets selected over others. And also, there's budget priorities. Obviously, working with our budget is a key priority in terms of setting up, and then distributing each year. We set up a 5-year program, and each year we more or less try to match the funds that we anticipate. Now, of course, the cost of petroleum has gone up significantly, so the package that you approved just now for us to go out for bid, we have an estimate of what it would cost. We're hoping you can stay within that budget estimate. If not, we may have to curtail some of the projects to match the budget. Or we can come back to council and ask for more budget, but these are just considerations. Likewise, we try to do a geographic equity. We do proximity to schools and parks, and that's why we're doing like the intersection at Oak Street, because it's really in bad shape. But also we're considering other add-ons to this project, including putting some temporary pavement improvements to the entirety of Oak Street, because we know it's all in pretty bad shape, and we need to address the utilities under Oak Street before we do a full depth pavement restoration. So that's another factor where we have to look at what are the utilities under the street and whether we have the funding to address those as well prior to pavement, because there's nothing worse than paving a street and then going there next year, tearing it up just to make repairs. So as we go through this, we also inform other utility owners, PG&E, et cetera, about our pavement program and their, for them to get out there and do any improvements that are necessary prior to invoking any pavement. And of course, the last step that we've done here recently is value engineering. You go running around town, make sure that this is exactly what we want to do. We may adjust a little bit on the pavement type before we actually issue the bid document. And then here, next slide is the overview of the 5-year program that was presented in December. We're sticking to it pretty much. Like I said, we're tweaking it, the pavement types, but pretty much following this same schedule. So this year we have year one or the red. Year two we'll have the yellows. And then after year two, remember we go through it's a cycle again. We do a reassessment, go through the program, and reprioritize our streets, because some streets, even though they may have fared well in the 2020 assessment, they may not do as well in the 2023 assessment. So like I said, it's a moving target. Every other year we do readjust the pavement, and this is done, like I said, Bay Area wide, managed through Metropolitan Transportation Commission. And then the next slide is just kind of a factor that we use for deterioration curve. So obviously these are the scores. Right now the city is between at risk and poor. We're right at the border there. So a lot of our streets require major resurfacing or reconstruction, like I said. There's some that need some preventive maintenance. And that our focus is, of course, to do the preventive maintenance and do the minor resurfacing, because those projects are a lot less expensive to deliver rather than the full depth reconstruction where we're just, having to rebuild the street. All right. Next slide, please. So this kind of gives you an estimate of square yardage for some of these treatments that we have. Again, the cost is a variable. These are probably the latest costs from last year. Again, we've gone through a spurt of cost increase for construction, for petroleum products, and so they can come in a little higher, but again, these are rough estimates, and they kind of give you the years that the pavement management would survive. So pavement maintenance treatments is a 5 to 10 year thing. Minor street resurfacing is 8 to 15 year. Major resurfacing, of course, is at 10 to 20, and a full reconstruction is when you get 30 years out of your street. So this is one of the strategies. Is also looking at how the cost will impact the projects, and moving forward, how we can address some of these shortfalls that we may have. And that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be love to hear you ask me in person for the first time.
Council members, any questions for the Public Works Director?
I do have some questions. Something else does?
You have the floor.
Thank you. Just looking at the last two slides there, the deterioration curve and the other considerations, the cost issue is significantly different between preventative, obviously, and full reconstruction. Correct. I'm wondering, I think Dr. Mitz and I have spoken now and then, and maybe she or Ms. Kellogg can chime in here as well. But I was thinking, is there some way we can find other financing and do 80% of our work or 90% of our work and use the Measure T dollars to pay down that debt over time? Like, will the NVTA allow us to do that? And then if so, how much are we saving every year ongoing in preventative maintenance or reconstruction by having our streets actually at an 80 or 85? I'm wondering if whoever the consultant group that does this can provide a financial projection for scenarios like that.
You've hit the major point of the whole point of pavement is to do preventive maintenance, and that's going to be your most bang for the buck, basically. It's much cheaper to do minor resurfacing than to do a full depth reconstruction. So how do you address the streets that need full depth? Well, we have to borrow, like you said, borrow up front to get those streets underway, to get those projects done, and then we can get into a realm of preventive maintenance year-round. Some of these projects that continue to hang on indefinitely because of the lack of funding. How do we do it? I think Measure T was going to be brought forward so that we can borrow against it. I'm not sure where that stood in terms of the local election.
Yeah, that is correct. We have had several conversations with NVTA regarding basically borrowing the funds and using Measure T proceeds. In the current state, from our feedback from them, it is not allowable. So we would actually have to borrow against our own resources, which we have pretty limited funding and our own resources to do that. So we have been actively working with MVTA and just to getting some new language, potentially going in front of the voters to allow us to do that.
Will those funds be allowed, regardless of our source of financing, can we use Measure T to pay down the debt?
As of right now, it's not allowable to do that, so that's something that they're trying to work new language in to go in front of the voters to allow us to do it.
Let me just chime in there to correct that. As of 2 weeks ago, we voted, the NVTA Board of Directors reviewed that item. It was brought forward to our board, and we actually approved that. So we can do exactly what you're suggesting, Councilmember Hall. Use resources that we can find elsewhere and pay those down with Measure T funds as of now.
Terrific.
So, yeah.
That is a great update. Thank you for that.
I'm sorry I didn't say that earlier, but yeah.
No,
thank you for chiming in.
I appreciate that.
That's fantastic. Then, is there any way we can get a couple of scenarios then put back in front of us at some point that would help us understand how much we might need, and then that would obviously allow us to figure out where we can go source that money?
Absolutely, it's a great suggestion, and we will move forward with another report to see what can be accomplished in terms of bringing up our score so that we get into the realm of good to, or to excellent, and to just have this ongoing program of road maintenance rather than rebuild.
Right. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Vice Mayor.
Yeah,
Terrific.
thank you. Council member.
Just one question.
I saw your hand this
I know,
time.
it's just
Thank you.
So, because what you reported tonight is that we improved a road in Cronulla and we still dropped a point. And
Yeah.
so with the money that we currently have through Measure T and the projections, even spending the million point something every
Three,
year,
yeah.
$1.3 million, and whatever that will be each year, that we still would just stay the same or even drop a point.
Exactly. We're right now, the way the funding is working is that we're holding steady. We're just addressing, basically keep our score, not let it drop any further, because we were in a downward spiral for a while until they, Measure T came about, and then also SB1 came about also. So we brought in some more funding. So now we're able to hold steady, not, address the critical needs and not let it drop any further. Ideally, we'd be moving up, and in order to move up, we need more funding. And a lot of cities floated bonds. Others have borrowed against their self-help dollars. We're not there yet, but, ideally, this is the way we should move.
Thank you. Thank you for that update. Sounds like we
Thank
have
you.
a new option.
Okay. Moving right along on our calendar, and just one other question I thought. So I think it would be helpful for folks in the community to know, those who are up for a road pavement improvement near their neighborhood. It'd be nice to either put something in the paper, or I know we had a calendar item 8.7, and then this item jointly. There's a lot of information there. Be helpful for the community to know,
Right.
so that those folks who like to call and ask, when am I up, that they find out. So that would be very helpful.
Right. The map that was included in the slide presentation is posted on our
Okay.
webpage.
Good.
And so that kind of gives you a visual of when to expect some work in your area. Again, I would just caution, put an asterisk on this, that years 1 and 2 are pretty much set. Years 3, 4, 5, of course, get reassessed when they do the 2-year updates on these programs.
We got into some discussion here, and I neglected, I was getting to opening up public discussion. So I will open up public comment and see if there is any on this matter. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Okay, any other comments from council on the report by our Public Works Director? No. 5 minutes to 7. Anything else for the good of the order? Madam Clerk, have I done everything I need to do tonight?
Wonderful job.
Thank you. Meeting is
Well,
adjourned.
there's one thing you haven't done.
What is that? I apologize.
You haven't adjourned the meeting.
I adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Cindy, thank you very much.
Work on the air conditioning.
Thank you very much. for
Thank you
giving
all.
us time.
Appreciate your comments.
Is that a record?